So with that in mind, let's kick this off. I'm Kay. Thanks again for taking the time to make it this weekend. What we're going to be discussing today is I won't say too big of a departure from the technological progress we've been making over the last 1 or 2 years in the digital options and FX space. But I think in general, if you look at this product in isolation, what we have created here can, in theory, render your traditional binary options and B-book FX brokerages pretty irrelevant. The technology is pretty unique. So yeah, welcome on board. And I'm going to walk you through the technology step by step. And towards the end, of course, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions. As you can see on the screen in front of you, the product is known as SPECTRE. Okay, it's not just a fancy name that we pulled out of thin air. It actually stands for Speculative Tokenized Trading Exchange. The speculative bit is probably clear to most of you. I just pulled a poll and I can see 97% of the audience today is actually traders. The tokenized bit, you're probably wondering what that means. And of course, that I'll get into more detail. And then of course, trading and exchange. Those are terms that you all know of. Let's start with discussing the problem. What exactly is it that we're trying to solve? There are two markets, okay, that are suffering at the moment because of broker fraud. All right, and a lot of you, I'll say probably over 50% of you, if not more, have firsthand been scammed in a very bad way to varying degrees. You know, some of you maybe only lost a few hundred, some of you have probably had their life savings taken from them. And we know how much the problem has increased over the last 3-4 years, right? Despite regulation clamping down in Israel and in Cyprus and parts of Europe, the problem just seems to be an endless bucket. So let's start with digital options, all right? Also known as binary options. To give you a rough estimate of the size of how big this market is, now this is based on actual audited data. This is coming from the Tech Financials listing prospectus. If you recall, Tech Financials listed on the London Stock Exchange just 2 years ago. 2-3 years ago, and they're obviously in deep trouble. Roughly speaking, in 2015 and 2016, annually, around 2 to 3 billion US dollars of deposits were deposited by, we estimate, anywhere from 200 to 500,000 traders around the world in those 2 years. Okay, and the volume traded in binary options per year is around 30 billion. Okay, now, the shocking statistic is that 95% or higher of this 2 to 3 billion per year is actually lost. Okay, and I shouldn't say lost specifically. I would say out of that 95%, maybe around 70%, 75% is genuinely lost, and that's because people don't know how to trade. At least the people that trade binary options, digital options, and foreign exchange. It's a complex science. Trading is a complex science. For those of you that have tried their hand at it, it takes a year or more to learn at least, and another year to really perfect. And that's if you're putting in the chart time, right? So it's a technical analysis and fundamental analysis that takes it forward. The reason I say that using the term lost only applies to 70% of that number is because the rest is stolen. Okay, that's the brutal reality, right? Brokers, 90% of binary option brokers will steal your money, either explicitly or using a range of trickery and techniques that we'll go over. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is data that we have never given you before. This is data that we have received very recently after months of asking and doing a lot of bottom-up grassroots research. And what we see is that from brokerages, the very few that do remain in binary options that are A, regulated, and B, do pay out, right? Do pay out, which is very rare. The win rate on traders is 49.8%, right? And that's a really important point to note. So if you're throwing 10 trades at the system, less than half are going to win, right? So the more people you throw at a platform or you bring to a platform, the higher the number of users, the more likely the win rate will regress to the mean. And this is if the users are left to their own devices. So if you give them a fair trading environment, generally speaking, because when they win, they're only paid 75-80% versus when they lose 100% of the trade. Generally speaking, the broker makes money. And this is why brokers like Opti, 365, ETX, these are regulated brokerages, their stats show us that 90% of traders do lose money, right, in binary options. And 10% do make money, decent money, and they do receive withdrawals. This is if they are left untouched, okay? Now, as I mentioned earlier, 90 to 95% of all brokerages globally, however, do not pay out wins, okay? Even if the trader wins, they don't get paid out. And this is why the loss ratio in binary options or digital options is close to, well, between 95 and 100%, right? And before I get to what exactly the games are, most of them you already know, let's discuss FX for a little bit. In the foreign exchange world, around $81 trillion is turned over every year. Okay, 81 trillion. There are around 4 million traders trading FX at any given point in time, right? So it's a different order of magnitude when compared to digital options or binary options. 70% of all FX traders in the world lose money. That figure is probably the most reliable figure you can find. It's coming from Oanda's end of year annual report. They are required by the CFTC to show their loss and win ratios on trader accounts, deposit accounts. So this is almost CFTC style audited data, right? So 70% of traders at Oanda will be losing money. The figure, if I recall, was 65 to 70%. And that's Oanda, which is a brokerage that plays no games. They are a market maker. They are CFTC regulated. Oanda is probably at the end of a very thin tail distribution, right? Generally speaking, if you move towards the middle of the distribution, the bell portion of the distribution, you will find what is known as the bulk of the industry, right? The scam brokerages like FXCM and Iron FX and all those huge scandals that went down in the last few years and many more keep cropping up. Here's the thing. It's the same situation there. An FX broker can do one of two things with your money. They can be legitimate and they can be a STP, known as a state through processing, okay, state through processing broker that literally takes your trades and forwards them using a bridge into the wider exchange market, okay, where you have the big guns like Deutsche, Goldman, etc. And this way, they only take a small spread, but there's no conflict of interest. Unfortunately, a very small portion of the industry is actually this so-called straight-through processing or A-book in the FX industry, okay? The bulk of the industry, because it's more profitable for foreign exchange brokers to trade directly against you, okay, is known as the B-book industry, okay? B for Bravo, A for Alpha, B for Bravo. So at an A-book broker, which is a CFTC-regulated Oanda, right, probably the behemoth in the industry, they're the biggest. I think they're $1 billion company. They have a 70% loss ratio. That's when traders are left alone to their own devices. The loss ratio is 90% or higher when you have the B-book traders, okay? The B-book traders are basically like binary option bucket shops, right? They will trade against you. Now I've basically defined the problem, okay? The problem is billions a year. It's not a problem that's 10, 20 millions. And the problem is getting worse. Very recently, you had some major news that came out in Finance Magnets and in some other publications online where you saw binary option brokerages had stolen money to a magnitude of $250,000 from a few entrepreneurs. One actually ended up killing himself, and this made all the major news stations in Canada. This was a Canadian individual, and we covered it as well on the Bears. And this just goes to show that it's not like the problem is flattening out. It's not plateauing. It's actually getting worse. You see articles and articles written by The Guardian in the UK talking about how UK pensioners are falling prey to this scam, which is not only digital options but also FX. These brokers are unscrupulous. They have too much control over your funds. And that exactly is where the problem begins. The fact that you deposit at a broker in order to trade with them, right? That's where the problem begins. And let's take a look. in a bit more detail. So basically, what you have is, this is the current model. Okay, take a moment to observe this chart. The current FX broker and digital options model is mired with conflict of interest. Okay, at the left you have you, basically the trader. Okay, you deposit at the broker. Make no mistake, you're not depositing at some website or anything. You're actually depositing in the broker's bank account. It sits in what is known as an operating account, your money. And the broker is not allowed to actually touch that money until you've actually confirmed it as a loss. But that rarely happens. The brokers regularly will use that money for a range of things that they're not supposed to. So you have the trader at the left, that's you. You have them interacting with the trade portal in the middle. Okay, and that trade portal is not an independent third-party audited platform. This normally is created by the broker itself or by a technology company that de facto is a broker and just sells it to a range of brands. Okay, and I think we all know which one I'm talking about here. So this trade portal, okay, you have the trader, and then you have the broker management. You have a liquidity pool, also known as the broker's balance sheet. And immediately, you can see a range of conflicts of interest that arise. Okay, so let's discuss the first one. Even if you win, okay, and a lot of you have probably experienced this, even if you win, the 75 to whatever, 80%, 90% payout that they tell you you're going to get, 90% of the time you're not going to get it. A, because you're locked in because of some bonus that you took by mistake, or they force it on top of you, or these risk-free trades that they told you to take. Little did you know that by accepting those or forcefully having them force-fed to you, your capital gets tied up for years, literally for years, right? Because they're volume-based restrictions. What this means is that even if you're winning, you cannot withdraw. If you withdraw, they will make excuses. They will remind you of their terms and conditions. And ultimately, let's be honest, the money is on their side. It's not in your bank account, right? So they can do what you like. And in the very kind of unscrupulous brokers, what you get is that they simply will stop responding to you, right? And we have seen that with so many stories across the world. People have deposited 10, 20, 30,000. They've made 10, 20,000. They ask for a withdrawal and their account manager just disappears. So the biggest problem is brokers will block payouts and withdrawals. Okay, this happens both in binary options and in FX. The second problem is that you, the trader, you do not know if the broker has any capitalization, right? Which broker today do you know its balance sheet value of? Right? You don't know any broker today that openly, transparently, in real time shows the size of their balance sheet, basically, which is a great proxy for how capitalized they are, how well capitalized they are, and how well they're able to pay your wins. No broker discloses that. In fact, some bucket shops have no money in there. They've already spent that, right? Because they know that as long as you deposit, they're going to find a way to steal it. This is a big problem, all right? The fact that you don't know how much money they have. Following from that is when you lose a trade, 100% of that loss, so let's say you wagered $100, you lost that trade, 100% of that goes to the management team, to the broker management team, right? 100% of the loss. What you'll also see is that the management team will tamper with price feeds sometimes. Okay, when you start to win, you will notice that the spread on entry starts to become worse and worse. This is why some of you may have experienced a strange phenomenon where you're trading on a demo account. It's easier to make money on a demo account, A, because it's emotionally less of a burden, but B, also because you just get better entry prices. And what you'll notice is as your wins go up, especially on the binary broker side, you will start to see your entries getting worse or your exits get skewed as well, right? If it was a really close trade, the broker has more of a margin to screw around with that price. Great example is binary.com, especially after the events of last year. They have basically made it so that if the price upon entry is the same as the price upon exit, you lose the trade. You lose 100% of your capital invested, which shouldn't be the case. Since the event was a draw, you should receive your money back, right? And so this is a growing problem, right? The price feed is something the brokers have control over, and they can change it. It's not like there's an independent third-party audit that is being performed on the outcome of your trade. It's all happening at the broker level. And remember, the broker is also the same party that holds your funds. More perversely, account managers, right? And I mean, who doesn't hate them at brokers? These guys will be sitting there trading on your account. Either they will convince you to trade, they will prey upon your hope, your weakness, and generally speaking, they will missell what is possible in terms of ROI, right? So to make 20, 30% a month may be possible in digital options. They will tell you can make 50 to 100% a day, right? And they'll tell you to deposit 10,000, 15,000, quick. Non-farm payrolls data is coming in 2 hours. Go ahead and put in 10,000. Let me swipe your card, and you know where that leads to, right? So, and if you say no, they may even access your account and trade on your behalf and trade it to zero. And if they don't do that, they will unleash an auto trader, which has a win rate of 50%, and that will gradually deplete your account. Okay. The fact is they have access to your account. The fact is you have deposited money. So a lot of you are probably saying, okay, we get it. We've been scammed. You're basically telling us something we already know. This is the extent of the problem, and this is what SPECTRE does that's different. Okay. Now take a moment to take this in. SPECTRE reduces the influence almost to 0% that the management team has. In fact, the management team of the broker has no influence on any of the flow of funds during this 4-agent relationship that I've outlined. The liquidity pool, okay, which by the way previously was unknown to anybody, is actually funded by an initial coin offering. Basically, if you think about it, it's an initial public offering of a small part of this entire platform, namely the liquidity pool. Okay. What the funding does is it capitalizes the liquidity pool with a few million in funding. The range is typically anywhere from 5 to 10 million. I've given an example figure of 2.5 million, but it adequately capitalizes, if you will, this entire broker setup. Okay. In return, the people who capitalize the liquidity pool, these are known as token holders or ICO investors. They receive electronically traded security, and this is known as a token. Okay. A lot of this is new. For some of you already know what I'm talking about. For a lot of this is new, so I'm going to explain this very slowly. This token is a listed share in this SPECTRE project. You basically own part of the liquidity pool, not the broker, not the management team, right? This has basically been completely marginalized. It's now the crowd. The crowd owns small tickets in this liquidity pool. Okay. And in return, they receive the tokens, which are publicly traded. They can be sold and bought at any time on all major global cryptocurrency exchanges. Okay. That's the first thing. Now comes the second part. In the previous model, or in what you want to call the existing, a contemporary binary options broker or FX B-book broker model, 100% of a trader's losses become the gains of the management team, right? In this case, in the SPECTRE model, there's just a 2% operational fee or a technology fee, if you want to call it that, for basically powering the whole platform. So the number drops from 100% to 2%. Okay? That's how much power is literally taken out of the broker. So each time the liquidity pool increases, okay, and the liquidity pool can increase either when the system, the algorithm matches traders, or if the trader takes a trade and loses, okay? The liquidity pool increases by the amount of that trade, and 2% of that increase goes to the management team of SPECTRE. And very interestingly, 5% of that increase goes to the token holders, right? The investors that capitalize the balance sheet. So effectively, this setup is owned by the token holders. This is owned by the crowd, by the masses. Okay. They earn more than double than what the Spectre management team does on a per trade basis. That's the first difference. Okay. And this is for life. As long as the token holder is holding a share in the liquidity pool, which they can sell on an open exchange, so this can be transferred to anybody else, they will receive these dividends. Okay. It's also worth noting that the technology behind this is all on the blockchain. So I'll be getting into that in a bit. If you're wondering how exactly this is possible, this is very possible. So that's the one side of the equation. All right. Now, you may be wondering, what about the rest of the equation? What about the fact that if the trader wins, right, does the liquidity pool pay the trader out immediately? Or is that something the management governs? Does the management have any influence on that transaction, right? So let's say a trader places a jumbo trade, $1,000, wins. What happens after that? Does the money go to their wallet, their account, or does the management team need to prove it? Does the token holders have to prove it? The answer is absolutely not. This entire operation here is autonomous. It's a decentralized autonomous entity operating on the blockchain. In fact, it is governed by what is known as smart contracts. Okay? These smart contracts dictate, they're basically lines of code, immutable, that can't be changed once they're unleashed on the blockchain. Okay? They're written and then they're launched. And once they're launched, they're basically stored across a network of thousands of servers. Okay? I'll explain that in a bit again, but try and get this around your head now because this is an important step. This pink thing that you see here, this pink triangle, this is a smart contract. This governs every aspect and makes sure that the Spectre team is effectively following its fiduciary duty to all of the stakeholders, not just the token holders, not just the traders, but even to itself, right? This is really important to note. Let's go step by step. So the first thing to note is when a trader takes a trade, that transaction is verified. Okay, it's verified that the trader has enough money to place the trade, and it's accepted by the system. And at that point, the outcome is monitored. So let's say the expiry is 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes, the smart contract will check the price in the open markets. Let's say the trade was in euro, US dollar, or British pound, Japanese yen. It will receive that information independently. It's not information that the Spectre management team can send it. The smart contract can only receive it from an external third party. This means it is impossible for the Spectre management to fake the prices or tamper with price feeds. That's the one very important thing. When it realizes that the trader has won the trade, immediately the smart contract will instruct the liquidity pool electronically. There is no possibility for human intervention to basically pay the trader instantly. If the trader has lost, the trader's wallet has been debited immediately. The liquidity pool gets funded by that gain. 2% of the gains go to the management, 5% as dividend, as I mentioned earlier, go to the token holders. All right. This entire process is governed by the smart contracts. Okay, I want to reiterate, there is no way for the management team or anybody to hack into the smart contract and change the code once it's launched. And I will explain to you why that is the case and why that makes this a foolproof system. And in order to explain that, I will need to explain to you the blockchain theory. But before I do that, let me just also tell you one really important point about Spectre, which makes it unique. So far, I've shown you earlier all the points of failure, right? The pressure points in the system, which is where the broker can tamper with your account. They can tamper the price feed. They can refuse withdrawals, all those things. That is because you deposit with the broker. That leap of faith, that trust that you entrust the broker with, that's where all the problems start. The beauty about the Spectre model, because it's built on the blockchain, is you don't deposit with Spectre. The money actually never goes to the Spectre bank account. Okay, that means deposits, the whole concept of deposits no longer exists. The money actually lies in your Ethereum private escrow wallet. It lies in your own smart contract, which no one has access to but yourself. Okay. So again, the concept of deposits do not exist. Okay. The smart contract governs outflows and inflows into your wallet. Okay. But again, the code in the smart contract, which is audited, can't be changed once it's unleashed on the blockchain, which means the management it's theoretically impossible for them to go inside and say, hey, let's deplete these accounts. Okay, that's the beauty. So I think now is probably a good time for me to explain what the blockchain is. Again, probably a lot of you know what it is, but I'm going to assume that 50% or so don't. So bear with me here. And when I explain this, you also see how smart contracts fit into the whole picture. So a blockchain, in this case, I'm going to tie it to this trading example. We're using the Ethereum blockchain, which is the world's second largest blockchain. You have the Bitcoin blockchain, and then you have the Ethereum blockchain. I'll explain after this why the Ethereum blockchain for this purpose is better. Now, this blockchain is a decentralized network of servers. Okay, that's all it is, servers, mainly devices, but most of them are servers, around 22,000 of them around the world. And what they do in real time, as quickly as they can, is they keep confirming transactions, okay, and self-monitor each other for any discrepancies in these transactions. I'm going to read this paragraph again, okay? So this is the first time. I'll have a second pass at it soon. Each server out of these 22,000 and growing contains a copy of a transaction made anywhere in the world on any other server. So it's impossible for one server or a few to try and cheat this transaction, okay? Therefore, the blockchain, in the case of SPECTRE, is like a police, okay? It's like a police that confirms each trade transaction, whether the trader won or not, and if and how much to pay the trader or debit the trader, or debit the liquidity pool, right? This code is hardwired into smart contracts that when unleashed on this giant network, this Ethereum blockchain, they cannot be stopped because they're immediately copied on all servers, right? Any discrepancies in code means those servers are immediately ignored for that transaction. The code is therefore what is known as immutable. It cannot be changed, which is why we are doing a very, very onerous task over the next 3 months, auditing the code, and we're getting independent auditors to audit the code again and again. There are 2 or 3 layers of audit because once it's launched, it can't be stopped. There's an element of Terminator to this as well. Okay. For those of you that are questioning, yeah, but is the Ethereum blockchain legitimate? Well, the price of Ethereum today is 260. It peaked at 400. For those of you that remember in the rooms, I think Josh and the guys were shouting about it when it was at $10 last year. The Ethereum blockchain today is valued at around 25 billion. And here's the beauty. This blockchain and this smart contracts, this server network doesn't only deal with SPECTRE. This deals with a range of over 65 industries, right? Applications on the blockchain are increasing every day. The transactions on SPECTRE are just one out of hundreds of thousands of transactions every day that will be governed by the blockchain. So it's not like a blockchain we have set up specifically for SPECTRE so that we can game the entire system or scam it. This is the public blockchain. There is no way to scam it, right? This is the beauty of the system. So I'm going to read through this paragraph once again. So I can imagine, I know it gets frustrating, but it's important for me to read this again because this is a concept that takes a few weeks to get around your head, what exactly the blockchain is. I'm going to read it again and then we'll move on. A blockchain, in this case, the Ethereum blockchain, is a decentralized network of servers, around 22,000 to be specific, and this is growing daily. This is a network around the world, and all it does is it confirms transactions and self-monitors other servers for discrepancies in transactions. Each server contains a copy of a transaction made anywhere in the world so that it's impossible for one server or a few to try and cheat a transaction. Okay. Therefore, the blockchain, in the case of SPECTRE or in a trading scenario, is a police. Consider SPECTRE as a system and then imagine a giant cobweb around it. Okay. that cobweb ensures the integrity of the system and to make sure all agents are performing as they should through the use of smart contracts. Okay. So this police basically confirms in real time each trade transaction, whether it has won or not, and if and how much to pay the trader or debit the trader. The code is hardwired into smart contracts so that when it's unleashed on the blockchain, it cannot be stopped. The code is immutable, and which is why it is being audited many times by globally recognized auditors in the blockchain space. Okay. Now, a lot of you at this stage are probably asking, this seems really complex. Will it mean any change to me trading if I'm trading binary options or digital options or FX? No, that's the beauty. The interface you're going to be using is going to be the Artemis interface, right? We're repurposing it for the blockchain, so it's called SPECTRE by Artemis. But the important thing to notice for you, it's just a standard up and down option, right? Or long or short trade. You don't see any of this. This is all happening in the back end, right? But this ensures 100% fiduciary responsibility is being carried out. So this brings me to the kind of vision over the next 1 or 2 years. I'll go over the roadmap in a bit, and I can see a lot of questions coming in, which is good. We are almost through. The first, the goal basically is to create a community, an ecosystem. What is known as a decentralized app, right? So you know what apps are, web apps. Now there's a whole flurry of projects being created on various blockchains, the Ethereum blockchain being the most popular one at the moment. And these softwares are known as dApps, decentralized applications. So SPECTRE is launching the world's first dApp store, which uses the liquidity pool protocol that we have created, this whole tokenized balance sheet concept, which has never existed before, to basically provide liquidity where required to a range of apps. The good news is the first app that will hit is Artemis, which I know a lot of you have been painfully waiting for over a year, and we've been saying next week. Believe it or not, now it really is next week. But you can see what we've been working on in the sidelines, basically solving the problem once and for all. So Artemis will hit. This will basically compete head-on with your classic binary options brokerages today. The first market that we're going to be disrupting is binary options and digital options, because that's the one that has the biggest problem. The moment the Ethereum Enterprise Global Alliance is known as the EEA, they are working on settling spot transactions, FX transactions on the blockchain, right? Now, on their own version of the blockchain. The moment they're successful in doing that, right, moment it becomes commercial, SPECTRE Artemis will plug in to that as well, and therefore you'll have unprecedented transparency when trading FX as well. Okay. Then, of course, I know there are some hivers here, some Hive junkies who kind of look back at last year, the times when binary options were literally broken by Hive. The team there did a fantastic job in bringing binary.com to its knees, basically. If you recall, they had to shut down key hours because the algorithms were hitting them. The beauty here is that once this concept is live for a few months, Signal Hive will be repurposed for SPECTRE, and you'll be able to auto trade and semi-automatically trade there as well. Okay, so you're no longer at the mercy of certain brokers that shall remain nameless. And then, of course, as I said earlier, we want to empower the masses, the development community, to create a range of apps. It can be betting apps, right? It can be any app that is event-driven that requires a liquidity protocol backing it. In theory, can be built on the dApp store, and the owners of the app can also earn on a per trade basis. And we already are in talks with a few a few developers to bring out a range of apps that plug into the SPECTRE liquidity protocol. Okay, so that's the kind of long view. This is now for token holders, for people that, again, this webinar is not for investment purposes. This is just something I want to mention anyway. But for those of you that are on the webinar that would be thinking of contributing to the initial ICO, the initial capitalization, and becoming a token holder, these are some really interesting dynamics. The SPECTRE token will basically trade under the ticker SPEC, S-P-E-C. It'll be listed probably on all major exchanges. We have to see how that goes, but on most of the prominent ones. and that's cryptocurrency exchanges. It pays out a normal dividend, that 5% that I alluded to earlier, and also special dividend from time to time if the growth in the liquidity pool has exceeded certain targets, which means that token holders can enjoy a special dividend as well. Now, one thing to note is, as I said earlier, fortunately or unfortunately, if you throw 1,000 traders at the system and you let them be, and you create a fair trading environment, zero-sum game, fair trading environment, only around 10% of those traders will be able to make money over the long term, right? Unfortunately, the most lose. And the main reason is investing the time to learn how to trade, having the patience, and controlling your emotions. And that kind of, there's a bit of a corollary there with money management as well, to a certain degree. And they rarely are able to pin down all those 3-4 attributes, and that's what differentiates a successful trader from an unsuccessful trader. The reason I'm mentioning this is, over time, as the system grows, when it has a few thousand, 10, 20, 30,000 traders, most likely the liquidity pool will continue to grow structurally, because traders just can't hold steady win rates over time. That also means that the size of the dividend likely is going to increase in dollar terms, right? Because it's never paid out in absolute dollars, it's paid out in percentage gains. So the absolute amount is probably going to increase, but because the amount of tokens is relatively limited, right? Relatively restricted. It's not like the SPECTRE team is going to keep printing and printing tokens. That also means that the value of dividends per token will increase, and this concept is known as dividend yield expansion. So we're forecasting anywhere from 15 to 65% dividend yield per year. Okay. That, if you compare that to tech stocks, for those of you that invest in equities and other things, normally, if you look at how much yield Apple pays, I think it's 2, 3, 4% a year, if I'm not wrong. 10 years ago, it wasn't even paying dividends. So it's important to note that in the technology sector, which is what SPECTRE is, it's a fintech play. Most tech stocks are paying a few percent, if at all. This one pays anywhere from 15 to 65% a year. Okay, so it's a huge yield play. Having said that, I am also legally required to remind you that this is not investment advice, okay? But I'm just letting you know these are the token mechanics. Another thing to note is that Artemis and Signal Hive and some of these smaller apps may be powering the liquidity pool at first, but in the long run, our plan is to massively grow the dApp store, right? Where we crowdsource the development, just like Apple did with the App Store, to get more and more apps on here and power this pool. So that's a good thing for the SPEC token, the value of the SPEC token. Okay, so this brings me to give you a bit of a vision on where we're headed. A lot of the development has been done for the actual Artemis platform, which is being repurposed to the blockchain, which will be known as SPECTRE, basically. We are looking at a private alpha launch somewhere in the next 10 days or so. And we're probably going to be, and we've already started the development of all the smart contracts that I mentioned earlier. We're looking at our initial coin offering. The ICO is probably going to happen in October to November of this year, latest December. The ICO being the bit which means that the liquidity pool is capitalized and the project is a go. We've already entered talks with a few of the larger investors and funds. And of course, the crowd sale will happen towards the end of the year. So we have some target ranges set, what we think we're going to be capitalizing this with. But needless to say, in the digital options space, the binary options space, most likely this will be probably if not one of the most well-capitalized and clearly the most transparent broker technologically ever in the existence of trading. Where things get exciting, of course, is the Q1 and Q2 of next year, where we'll be adding new assets. One thing I really want to stress is, if you ever stressed and you were somewhat irritated by the fact that binary option brokerages and digital option brokerages never offer enough assets, or at the right times that you want to trade them, for example, at night, things just seem to disappear into the ether. What we can tell you is that all currencies, all assets will always be available to trade at all times, right? And that's the first very important differentiating factor, apart from obviously the security things we've gone over in the presentation, but also the payouts won't be ridiculously low. We're looking at around 75 to 90% payouts in the system. And immediately after the ICO, we are filing for FCA regulation, BaFin, and most jurisdictions that we can. Although it is an autonomous system, this thing, it's still always very good to have as much regulation as one can. And then, as I mentioned earlier, whenever the spot transactions in the FX trading world are starting to settle on the blockchain, then we will repurpose SPECTRE, and you'll be able to trade FX from it as well. And also sports betting, right? We have every intention to enter general betting as well, not just limit ourselves to financial betting. We're looking to add lots of exotic options as well, all the ones that you find in digital options today, but more. We're also looking to add weather trades, weather derivatives, and a range of exotic assets, right? So metals, stocks, indices, anything that you can dream of, anything that exists. It's a community-driven project, so we can add it, right? And the beauty is that you have a giant liquidity pool backing it. I mentioned earlier that we have a primary algorithm which basically matches traders against the liquidity pool. We probably in around 6 to 8 months from now, we will be upgrading that algorithm for automated order matching. So basically, it will look across all the dApps connected to the liquidity pool and match trades where possible. And on those trades, the payouts are very high for traders. Okay. So we're done. This is the final slide. You, as a participant on this webinar, basically has the following options. So most of you are traders, so you're interested in the trade aspects of it. Okay, so you can just go ahead and wait till. In fact, you can probably go ahead and log in to Artemis and try it out. Basically, SPECTRE is Artemis repurposed for the blockchain. You can, of course, participate in the crowd sale if you like. We'll keep you updated on when that's happening. That's totally up to you. Or you can be a bounty hunter, which basically means you can become an affiliate of the actual crowd sale. And we have a program for that as well. That's totally up to you. Okay. And with that in mind, it's time for Q&A. Go ahead. I'll take all your questions now. Good question. Derplith is asking, where do you get the price feed from? The price feed is coming from predominantly Oanda, and then there's a secondary feed which kind of checks that feed for integrity. The most important thing to know is it's not like it's coming from binary.com or some sort of massaged feed or anything like that. And it's not coming from the SPECTRE app itself. It's coming from a third party. It goes directly into the smart contract. Derp, yes. Derp's question is, so you're using an ICO built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. Correct. So as you know, there are ICOs on a range of blockchains. Most are in Ethereum these days. There are some happening on other protocols, like Waves as well. The Ethereum blockchain, in our view, is probably the most robust because it has this smart contract capability. That doesn't mean others don't, but at this moment, it's the most commercial one. And the Ether has the most usage at the moment, so we think that's the best one. Marius, could you enlighten us what you mean by that question? Okay, I see a question from Derplith. When will the SPECTRE ICO be launched? That is launched in October to November. Leighton is asking, is there a specific minimum price to buy tokens? At this moment, we haven't decided the token mechanics. We're finalizing them with our advisor. All that information will be released shortly on the website. Okay, see a question from Lionel Ward. I understand why you're trying to do this. In a traditional broker setup, broker wins when a trader loses, and there's a clear conflict of interest. And the broker will use things at his disposal to ensure he wins. With tokenized balance sheet, there's no one working against the traders. This concept is good, but why do you need something like the blockchain? Can't you raise funds from 100 different people and set up the concept? No, the problem is if you raise funds from 100 people, it's still centralized. Those 100 people can be bought over, their shares can be bought up, and there is no ring fence. There is no actual police checking each and every transaction, right? If we were to raise funds from 100 people, it's just like a giant 24 option then, right? In this case, everything is confirmed and verified by smart contracts. The payouts to traders, the fact that if they've won or lost, and all of that. See a question from Michael Hodges. Check with Michael Freeman first, as I think he owns weather derivatives. No, he does not own weather derivatives, Michael Hodges. Michael Freeman is a known industry scammer, and he created a product which he says uses the sun to predict movements in prices. Weather derivatives are 10, 20 years old. They're a proper financial instrument that some of the big banks use. So no, anyone can launch weather derivatives or digital options on derivatives. There are no what you would call rights or patents on them. Sure, Michael. Feel free. So this is I'm really glad you have a million questions. This is the place to ask them. Okay, so Derp is asking, where can I find the Artemis platform? Artemis is currently in a private alpha. We've invited around 20 traders. We're basically stress testing it. When it's ready, we're basically going to launch it for around a month, and then basically it will be converted to SPECTRE by Artemis, which is basically the blockchain version of Artemis. Okay. To give you a background, so with Artemis, you'll have the ability to connect to one or two the good guys, right? The good brokerages, but you have the option then with SPECTRE to basically connect directly to the liquidity pool. Okay, I see a question from Leighton Whiteley. Can you be on both sides, trading and bounty? Yes, Leighton, fantastic question. Actually, we would encourage that. So the thing is, you see, you're our community. You've been our community for years, and we're not that, this is an informative webinar, right? So this is by no means a call for investment. We'd like you to trade, stress test the platform, and you can be a bounty hunter, right? So if you know people who want to participate in the ICO, that want to capitalize the ICO, or you simply want to be friends of the project and you want to start trading, we have an affiliate program in place for that, a pretty rewarding one. We pay in tokens, and in certain instances in cash as well. All right, so a question from Stavros Tusios. DAO and Ethereum, great idea. Onto the questions. Sorry, there's a few. I've put them all together. Absolutely, Stavros. Wouldn't expect anything less from you, my man. Give me a second. Okay, so we exchange. Great questions. These are really. I can tell Stavros is a blockchain man. So he's saying, so we exchange Ether or SPEC. Okay, great point. The SPEC, we've kept it very simple. SPEC is the token, right? That's the bit the dividend shareholders receive, and they get dividends on that, right? That's it. You use SPEC for nothing else. Yes, you can sell SPEC onto someone else, like you'll be selling shares. You don't use SPEC inside the platform. I know a lot of companies are using tokens as in-game currency. We think that's a deeply flawed mechanism. I won't get into details behind that, why that is, but there are risks to that. In our particular instance, SPEC is completely split from trading. You trade on the platform in Ether. Okay, Ether is very liquid. It trades close to 800 million a day. So instantly you can convert between Ether and dollars anytime you like. Very soon after the launch, we're partnering with a major Tether company. Tether basically allows you to trade in dollar equivalents, okay, dollar currency equivalents, which are verified on the blockchain in SPECTRE. Okay, so you have no FX risk. First, it'll be Ether, but then over time, you'll be able to trade those. And over time, we'll also be able to, will allow you to trade in different cryptos. Okay. The second question I see here, again, is from Stavros. I suppose one could exchange Ether anywhere. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ether is deeply liquid, so you can exchange it anywhere. Kraken, Coinbase, Poloniex, if I dare mention them. Okay, great question from Stavros again. Who regulates this? I suppose the Forex market pool has nothing to do with this market pool here. Great question. So the first thing to note is that the SEC has just formed their opinion on what constitutes a security just last week. And the FCA has opened up a sandbox, a blockchain sandbox, which is great news, which means that the entire FCA, apart from obviously dealing with all the complexities surrounding Brexit, is dealing with regulating blockchain. We are very early on the curve, right? This is something that one could launch 2 or 3 years from now, but we're doing it because the technology exists. The regulation has yet to catch up. Okay, so the way it will work is we're getting legal opinion on the regions where we are basically going to ICO. That could be Switzerland, Estonia, London, Singapore. We're still determining the final jurisdiction. The most important thing to note is that we will still apply for regulatory licenses the moment they have blockchain regulation in the fintech space, right? They're just working on that. The moment they have it, we will get it for sure. In the meantime, because Spectre would still be considered a trade facilitation service, so to put it, although we have no control over your deposits, although the management, basically, the broker doesn't exist in this scenario. I think we can definitely apply for an investment license with the FCA, which is our plan. It's part of our roadmap as well. Okay, see another question. Yeah, so Stavros is asking, this pool is separate to the Forex pool. Absolutely. So the thing is, this pool basically, however million it will be at first, we project probably between 5 and 10 at first. This will cater to digital options first, and the moment the FX market is ready to settle transactions on the blockchain, then what will happen is that we will allow you to trade from Spectre directly with the counterparties, directly with the wider FX market, which by then is settling the transactions on the blockchain, right? Now we'll need to see which blockchain they choose. We know that the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance is creating a blockchain that's very similar to Ethereum, or it's built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. But to avoid congestion or scalability issues, they may create a private blockchain, and that's okay because Spectre will connect to that for FX trades. So in answer to your question, so we'll be using this liquidity pool for digital option event-driven transactions, and then the wider market for FX transactions when it's ready. Right now, we can't connect Spectre, which is blockchain-based, to off-the-grid solutions, right? We can't tap into the wider FX market because there is no protocol that translates spot transactions on the blockchain at the moment. All the transactions are done off the grid. So once they bring them on the grid, Spectre will connect to that. Okay, great question from Stavros. What if Ether or spec price declines? Okay, so here's the thing. The spec price, which is basically the Spectre token, the listed share, which you can buy and sell as an investment, carries risks with it. It has all the risks and all the rewards that you would have if you're investing in any early stage company, right? So that's something you need to be very aware of. We will make you very aware of those risks. We'll have a separate webinar discussing the token mechanics. All I can say at this point is if you look at a lot of the tokens out there in the ICO space, around 5 paid dividends, of which none are in our space. So it'll be a very unique play. And it's a pretty steady stream because trading is very addictive. And it's basically allowing you to bet on the house, bluntly put, right? So you as a trader, if you want to trade, you can also own the token to hedge your trades to a certain degree. Nowhere nearly a perfect hedge, but the point is that there is a dividend yield protection on this particular security, right? Now, if Spectre was not paying dividends, then it would be much more open to volatility, right? Because people are like, why should I own Spectre today? I saw the liquidity pool drop by a bit. But if they know there's a dividend coming tomorrow, they're going to be less likely to sell it. So there's a bit of what we call bubble protection or dividend protection. In answer to your question, what if the price declines? Yeah, the price declines, you can take a hit, right? It's like if you invested in Ethereum or BTC, if it declined, you would take a hit. If the Ether price declines, the way you can hedge against that is just keep the concept of deposits don't exist in Spectre, right? But what you can do is there is a withdraw button, which basically moves your funds from your private escrow back to the original place where you sent it from. But because both places are in Ethereum, in the currency, you're not really going to be affected by the FX. The only time you could be affected by the FX is in the following scenario. Let's say you don't have any cryptocurrency. Let's say you come to this platform and you deposit $1,000, all right? You have to, well, I shouldn't say deposit. I'm so used to using the old term. You you park $1,000 in Ethereum in your wallet. You trade, and let's say you trade for a month, and during that period, if the price of Ether drops, let's say by 30% or whatever, then yes, if you convert back at that point back to dollars, you will take that 30% hit. However, excuse me, if you daily convert it, then you're dramatically reducing that, right? Because you're not waiting for the end of the 30 days. You can convert it immediately. That's the beauty. You have all these tools on site, right? You can just convert between the currencies, so you can limit your FX risk. All right, I see a question from, okay, Stavros has more questions. Does my Ether or specs subsequently lose value? No. So okay, that's a good point. If the Ethereum price drops, there is no real link to the spec price, right? There's no direct link unless people sell the SPECTRE token, unless bigger investors start selling the SPECTRE token because they see, okay, Ethereum has declined. Because Ethereum has declined, there's just less dollars or dollar equivalents in the system, and so therefore I want to take profit now. Yeah, there is that, but there is no sort of operational link, so to put it, apart from the FX. I see a question from, again, this is from Stavros. Sorry, these questions have come broken up. Who's filling the client's orders? The SPECTRE conditional liquidity algorithm basically takes care of the orders. Basically, it becomes a counterparty. The liquidity pool becomes a counterparty to trades where it cannot find matching orders. But where there's matching orders, it will match them. So there's two algorithms operating. So yeah, it's Nadex and more. Right, I see a question from Stavros. Would there be slippage considering SPECTRE as some sort of exchange or other tech considerations? Zero slippage, instant price. However, one thing to note is that the blockchain, the security web, after you've won the trade or you've lost the trade, there is a processing time where you'll be seeing a loading wheel, and it will tell you that the transaction is being verified by the blockchain. And let's say you won, then you may have to wait a few minutes, sometimes 1 or 2 minutes in periods of high activity on the blockchain, and then the funds are sent to you. But the outcome, whether you've won or lost, is instant. So you see that immediately upon expiry. I see a question from Lionel Ward. Most common issues faced by BO traders are related to withdrawals. How are you ensuring this doesn't happen at SPECTRE? What if you stop withdrawals from my escrow account? Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, Lionel, you may have joined the webinar late, but it's a fantastic question. Just to reiterate, there is no withdrawals in SPECTRE. You can trade directly from your offsite Ethereum wallet, anywhere, your cryptocurrency wallet in the world. That's the first option we give you. If you want to allocate funds to trading, you can just send funds to your own private escrow, okay, which sits on the blockchain. It doesn't sit on the SPECTRE app. It sits on the blockchain. And then the SPECTRE smart contracts reads from that, basically, okay? There is no deposit. The whole concept of depositing would mean that you're sending funds to the management wallet, and that's just not something that can be done. Okay, the only way the management gets paid in this scenario, and this governed by the blockchain, governed by smart contracts, is if a trader loses money and the liquidity pool increases, immediately the smart contracts pays 2% of that increase to the management and 5% to the token holders. Okay, so there is nothing, there is no way that we can change that dynamic. So deposits simply don't really exist. You're not depositing with us. You're not. We can't spend money that we don't have because we simply don't have that. It's not for us to have. See a question from O'Kane. Fantastic question from O'Kane. How will the marketing of this be different from today? I'm so glad you asked that. So this is a big problem with marketing in digital options and FX. The returns promised are just a joke. Okay, I mean it's just unrealistic, right? Traders cannot make 20 to 50% a day. They just cannot do that. They can do that on a small account. When the account starts to become big, the emotions kick in. So very simply put, we believe SPECTRE is pretty disruptive. The community at Blue Sky Education, it's around 2,000-3,000 traders big. We'll be getting quite a few traders in the system already through there. And we're very confident that once whatever early bugs are ironed out, the system will grow. Firstly, through word of mouth, because of how disruptive the technology is. I mean, it's not like we're starting another binary broker, right, or another FX broker. This is changing the game of how trading is done. It gives unprecedented safety. It gives unprecedented amount of asset availability throughout the day, and a range of other pluses. So I think that's a big thing. Please also note that the team here has, a certain degree, substantial degree of funds, which we're going to be using to make strategic acquisitions as well, where we're basically buying user bases, right, who are currently using old defunct technology that currently digital options brokers offer. I won't go into names, but I think we know what some of the most nefarious platforms are. A lot of those brokerages are looking to exit ASAP. They're looking to sell their brokerages for small amounts, like $50,000, $100,000. So we're going on a small acquisition spree as well. So the good thing is that we'll probably get a lot of users in there. And then, of course, from there, the snowball effect. At some point, the users will stick and talk, and this will become a community. Long-winded answer, but it's important I state there is no way that we're going to be marketing this as come trade here and make $500,000 per day, right, or $10,000. We simply that's what hurt the industry. That's what got the industry to where it is today, right, in a bad shape. So there's going to be no explicit marketing of what you can learn. All that is going to be marketed is, hey, this is what you've been doing for the past 10 years. This is where it's led you, right? The entire industry is in shambles today. This is how it should be done, okay? Regulation is going to catch up soon. Come here and trade because you can trade safer. That's it. Okay, that's basically the spiel. And if that's enough for traders to come, great. And if they don't, then we take it from there. See a question from Stefan Peters. Does it mean I will trade against the token holders instead of the broker? This is a good question. Stefan, no. The reason is when you win, the liquidity pool pays you out immediately, right? But nothing happens to the token holders there. Token holders only get paid when two traders, a trader's win is matched by a trader's loss, by another trader's loss, takes a small cut, and token holders get paid there. Or if a trader trades directly against the SPECTRE balance sheet, the liquidity pool, and loses, that's when the token holder, makes money, not when they win. Okay, it's not like if you win, then the token holder and that the value of the token drops, and that's really important to note. So I would view the token holder, the token itself, as a hedge. If you're a trader on Spectre, you can also buy some tokens and see, okay, you know what, this is a hedge, because if I'm losing here, the dividends to the token are increasing, and vice versa. The other way to put it, and this is probably somewhat perverse, is people may look at this system and say, you know what, ultimately traders are going to lose money, and it's going to continue, and that's why I'm going to just buy the token, right? Because that's going to go up if that happens. But there is you're not really trading against the token holders. Good question from Marius Paxinos. How would be the trading platform? MT4? Yeah, okay, really good question. So we the Artemis is the trading technology, is actually the platform, okay? We're holding an Artemis webinar in 10 days time, separate webinar, equally complex. That'll explain what the trading platform is. Remember, Artemis is disruptive in itself. No trading platform has been created with emotion control algorithms and all that. So that will basically be your window into Spectre. MT4, in our view, is outdated. It's an industrial workhorse. It's an awesome platform to create strategies, etc. But it's not user friendly. So we have every intention to integrate MT5, not 4, because that probably will be deprecated over time. But MT5, when the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance has basically managed to bring spot transactions on the grid, that's when we can integrate MT5. But I can also tell you that you will be pleased with Artemis as a decent substitute. I see a question from Anne McLaren. This is mind-blowing stuff, sitting in stunned silence. Well, coming from you, Anne, that's a compliment, because I hear from the team that you are deeply technical inside Hive, and they're very impressed by your prowess, so thank you. See a question from Mike Trend. Can the escrow wallet be funded with other crypto coins too? Mike, in the future, yes. We're working with Shapeshift. They are, I think, one of the biggest, which will allow you to do that. So, a question from Gary Cook: will this be open for US traders? Fantastic question, Gary. We are in the moment. I mean, that's part of the big part of the project. We're literally having 2 or 3 calls with lawyers across the world at this moment because blockchain technology is so new. I'm going to incline to say yes, it will be open to US traders for trading. To accredited investors, you'll have to fill out a form. Again, don't quote me on that. I need to double confirm that. Most likely, yes. What I can tell you with certainty, unfortunately, is that the SPEC token is not open for investment by US citizens. Okay. That's not something that we are particularly excited about, but what you should know is that every ICO today, and there have been literally hundreds, if you just Google ICO, you'll see the frenzy I'm talking about, is what's happening here is that with this this whole frenzy with the ICOs, the SEC has taken the view that these are securities to a certain degree. The UK has a different view. The UK actually, we got a legal opinion. They say that they're not interest bearing, they don't have any leverage, and since you pay them out before 28 days, they're actually a spot transaction, so they go under the radar, which is great news for us. But for US citizens, the CFTC is a bit extra hard. They want to protect them, and therefore all ICOs are closed to investment. We hope that changes in the future. Very, very powerful people, such as Tim Draper, who runs Draper, Gewertz and Fisher, which is one of the world's biggest venture capitalists. He invested in the Bancor ICO. You may have heard that. Bancor raised 183 million, by the way, in their ICO. To give you some background, we're looking at a target raise of somewhere between 5 and 25 million. It's still early times. They raised 183 million in their ICO. And Tim Draper is an American citizen. He invested in that ICO. And then he wrote to the SEC and he said, hey, look, this is a new era of transparency, right? The blockchain is revolutionizing contractual relationships between parties. You can't be these you just can't be these sort of dated giants sitting in the space and not take a look at this, right? So big venture capitalists, the people that kind of move the space forward, the fintech space forward, are sitting with lawmakers right now as we speak and trying to make the US more conducive on this. If you ask me, I'd say in the next 2 years, I think ICOs will probably be regulated in the US properly, but for now the SPEC token is closed. Question from Simon Patmore: how do we make sure that we know when the ICO is open so we can get involved? Yeah, Simon, don't worry about that. This is just a webinar to explain to you that this is here and this is definitely happening, and binary options and digital options and all of that is going to just get a change in management, right? Enough of the crap. There's a new technology out there. In terms of the actual ICO, probably closer to the ICO, we'll hold another webinar to let you all know details about the token mechanics. It's a very busy 3-4 months ahead, okay? But you won't be missing out on it. All right, I see a question from Michael Hodges. Okay, I see some really good questions here. To start with, how do you protect your liquidity pool from being raided? Great question, Michael. So there is an arrangement. Again, I won't get into too much detail on this specific call about that, but we have a whole liquidity pool protection protocol in place. Basically, it's a range of multi-sig wallets, including offsite cold storage and also partially fiat with a escrow partner, possibly KPMG or another partner. So there are the pool is not just one crypto wallet, because that would be the stupidest thing to do. It's actually hedged and divided into so many different pieces. The traders only see one bit, so it becomes really, really difficult to hack. Okay. Think of a ship like a submarine, or basically like a giant Titanic, which actually sunk, but it has all these different airlocked places, right? So part of the chambers can fill, but it still keeps the whole thing floating. So similar principle. Your second question is contract size limitations to start. Yes, because the technology is new, of course, there will be contract size limitations. Basically, we have, by the way, we have a team behind this that's some of the same Blue Sky team, but we have also recruited external people. There's a significant budget for this. And we have a person who's dealing with liquidity and risk management who basically at first, we're going to be limiting contract sizes to palatable levels, a few hundred, and then that will expand as well over time for sure. We project, I think it was in year 2 or year 3, that the biggest trade will be something like $50,000 or something like that, or 100,000. But just to be clear, you're not going to be coming to Spectre trading $1 million digital options, right? That's just moronic. So for the masses, the contract size here will be more than enough. The limitations. Okay, example, say Blue Sky trades 1 million a trade for the MOC trades after hours and sucks up all the loser liquidity. Yeah, it's a great question. That won't happen, Michael. Yes, we're going to protect through trade size limitations, but for both parties, just to be completely clear, because if you look at Artemis, which I've not gone into in this webinar, which powers the Spectre trading platform, inside there, the whole goal is to protect the trader. You have a range of risk management templates, and it's not only about protecting the liquidity pool, it's actually about protecting the trader. We just don't want traders to come in here and destroy their livelihoods, right? Because anyone who places a 100K trade, bets on black, and it comes red, we're game over. But yeah, fantastic questions. See a question from Richard Anciado. What about the liquidity pool becomes too small? How will it be handled? Yeah, the liquidity pool will have various tranches, as I answered to Michael, of which you will see one part at any given time. When that part reduces of a certain amount, money from a second tranche will pour into that part. And in terms of how big the actual liquidity pool is, that information is transparent at all times. One thing to note, however, and it's very important that I mention this, and I think this kind of goes back to what I mentioned in the start. Unfortunately, out of 10 people in a room or 100 people in a room, when left to their own devices, only 10 people, 5 to 10 people will make money in the long run. So the liquidity pool, it's very unlikely that it will decrease over, let's say, 2-3 days. Most likely, yeah, it could decrease over a few hours, like especially what Michael said during the MOC, which is an easier period to trade. But generally speaking, over a week or certainly over a month and a few months, the trajectory is likely going to be up. And I think that is backed by so much research and data. If you look at all the loss ratios at FX brokerages, A book, B book, even in regulated binary option brokerages where we have data across thousands and thousands of trades, the win rate generally is pegged at 49.8%. What I'm trying to say is what Spectre provides is an environment for traders who invest the time, who are talented enough to trade, to make good money and make a living and have no fear that they won't be paid. But it's very unrealistic to assume that all traders are going to be holding win rates above 58%, which, by the way, is the tipping point for the liquidity pool to move in reverse. Okay, so you're going to Marios Paxinos. How would be the trading platform like MT4? Yes, Marios, I think I answered this earlier. The platform is actually Artemis. Okay, I see a question from Michael Hodges. What is the min trade types such as 1 min, 2 min, 5 min? What kind of time offerings and binary types will you offer to start? Excellent question. Glad you brought this up. So it's basically, binary.com. We think that they offer very diverse schedule, asset schedule and expiry schedule. At first, we'll start with, I think, around 28 pairs and currency pairs and 2 metals. And we'll probably, the minimum expiry will be 5 minutes at first, going all the way up to, end of day or end of week. But you can time your trade end, right? So you can say 6 hours and 6 seconds from now, and etc. So we'll give you that. In terms of the 1 minute and 2 minutes, we absolutely want to open this up. But the only issue is that we just want to double check how that works with the blockchain transaction efficiency, the blockchain transaction speed, sorry. So 5 minutes is something that we can do, shouldn't be a problem, but 2 minutes, 1 minute, we will need to kind of compare notes there. Look, we have a significant research and development budget post-ICO for this. So in the long run, we want to add every asset that we can literally here, right, with every expiry. But to start, it'll be 5 minutes and all expiries. Okay, I see a question from Steve Hill. Is there a maximum number of tokens that we released, or will there be a cap? Good question, Steve. At this moment, again, we haven't finalized token mechanics, but we're looking at around 100,000 tokens, of which the pre-sale, we need to again determine with our ICO advisor how much will be released at that point. They've advised us to keep some tokens in cold storage or freeze them with maybe releasing them in a few years later to possibly either fund the liquidity pool more, which I doubt will be required, or possibly for further expansion. It's something we still need to decide, but at this stage, most likely there will be a cap. I see a statement from Marius Paxinos. Mike Freeman is a big scammer. Yep, that seems to be his general Wikipedia definition these days. Bless him. Okay, I see Steve Hill. Great presentation, lots of info. Digest. Yep, take your time. See a question from Michael Hodges. The weather question was a joke, by the way. Oh, okay, I get that. Yeah, I was wondering because weather derivatives. Yeah. Marius Paxinos, how would be the trading platform like MT4? The platform will be Artemis, which in our view is superior to MT4. It's certainly easier to trade from. That goes live very soon. You can come in and test it out. Yes, Marius, Artemis is a trading platform. I see a question from Lionel Ward. Are there any other binary option brokerages on the blockchain, and will you be having any license to operate? Yes, we will have a license to operate, whichever regulation offers a license to for blockchain-based trading portals, which again is a very, very new thing. We will have that immediately when we can. Just to be completely clear, we want as much regulation there's possible, but we can't force regulators to move quicker. But we would love for it to happen. With regards to your first question, are there any binary option brokerages on the blockchain? No, nowhere near. There are no digital options or FX brokerages on the blockchain at this moment. Okay, I see a question from Derp Lith. So the funds for the liquidity pool come purely from ICO investors. How would you deal with a big portion of investors stepping off? Yeah, okay, this is a good point. Derp, just to know, once the funds are in the liquidity pool, if the investors sell the SPEC token, that doesn't affect the funds in the pool. Those funds are there for life, right? Those are there for trade backing. So investors can step off, but that won't impact the liquidity pool. Okay, I see a question from Ingmar Newworld. It reminds me a bit of collective health insurance model. An epidemic, malaria, yellow fever can seriously hurt the collective money pool. Now, some brokers ban social trading, which is a thing that they can't stop, I believe. How is this liquidity pool protect against epidemics? Read social trading copying. Good question. So this is the thing. The social trading, when it works, as we saw with Signal Hive last year, you remember September, October, November, the incident that we call Binary Gate, which brought down binary.com, right? Because they were losing, I think, $20,000 a day or $30,000. They hate that, right? Although they make over 50, 60K a day, they hate losing money. The question is basically, how powerful is the system, right? The system can have signals which are winning, over 60%, etc., and that's great. The traders can make money. If the number of dApps, decentralized applications connected to the liquidity pool are large enough in terms of user base. So if we have, let's say, 5,000, 10,000 users and they're all trading with a range of different apps, and then you attach a winning social trading system, it can be accommodated. Yeah, it would just mean that the liquidity pool's growth slows, right? But don't forget, there's so many traders where the system can match traders. So they can match a winning trader with a losing trader's losses. Just transfer the funds and take a small cut, which is what Nadex does with some liquidity provision as well. So that's where we aim the most of the pool growth to come from, that activity, right? Where the pool still takes a small cut. And yes, the system can, because the pool will be pretty substantial in size, it can accommodate a social trading group with profitable signals. Now, of course, if you're trying to ask, hey, what happens if there's 100% ITM signal, right, which attaches to the liquidity pool and 1 million people get on it, then of course the liquidity pool will go to nuts. Trading is a zero-sum game. And if they are so smart, if traders are so smart to develop a system that destroys SPECTRE, then well done. I mean, that's the future of investing. That thing itself, that technology is probably worth $1 billion, right? But we work with probabilities here. We look at eons of data. We look at tens of thousands of trades across brokerages, and we see what generally happens to the balance sheet of these brokerages. It tends to go up. In fact, we have a story from a broker, which we can remain nameless. for the purpose of privacy, but they started, this is a regulated broker that started their balance sheet with 20,000 euros. And they said verbatim, from day one, it grew, right? It grew because traders en masse cannot win. The point is that if you have 1,000 traders, you have 5,000 traders, of which 100 and 200 are connected to a signal service that makes money, that can be accommodated, right? That's how I would say is the thing. So, question from Megalaki Sharalampidis. It's been amazing to be here. Does this mean that all the Oanda-based Hive analytics will become tradable with SPECTRE? Right now, prices differ a lot from, let's say, binary.com prices. Thank you very much. Yeah, a good question. So, will the Oanda analytics become tradable? Hypothetically, yes, because we're not using binary.com feeds anymore, right? But in theory, the gap here should be lower. You're right. So, question from Steve Hill: Will this remove trade sizes also, so you can place any trade size like as long as you have the funds? No, Steve. So here's an important thing to note. You can't. If you're going to be trading in an insane manner, then you'll be trading with very, very large trade sizes if your capital is only so big, right? So, for example, if you have a $100,000 account, you should not be trading larger than $1,000 per trade, right? There's a 1% rule in FX. There's a reason good traders follow that, right? So the exposure is 1%. Now, if you want to take a $100,000 trade on SPECTRE, yes, we forecast in year 3 you'll be able to do that. But just think about it. How big does your account need to be? You need to have a $10 million account in order to take that trade and be ready to lose it and not flinch, right? That's the whole point, is that you don't want to flinch, right? You don't want to trade and have sleepless nights. And so when you have a $10 million account, are you actually going to be sitting on SPECTRE trading binary options, digital options, or will you most likely migrate over to FX? I mean, that's the simple answer, right? So in answer to your question, in answer to anyone's question, yes, there will always be trade caps, because if we say that there will be no trade caps, then there can come a day where you can take $1 billion trade on SPECTRE, right? That's fine. If the liquidity pool has grown to $1 trillion, in theory, that's accommodatable. But we need to be realistic here. Large trades can be taken, and we consider large trades $5, $10, $15, $20,000, right? We don't want to let greed. I mean, greed is what got us here, right? This is the problem. This greed is what got the digital options industry here. Greed by traders, greed by brokers. The brokers capitalized on this greed of yours. They saw this hunger that you want to trade like a freak, and they capitalized on this, and they saw that weakness, and that's how the entire industry has come to mud. So no, we're going to have caps. Okay, I see a question from Michael Hodges. There is no regulation on crypto and blockchain. I know you guys are fintech and this is not an issue, but still you are trading currency as the underlying, so this is a very gray area and could cause issues. Mike, so this is the thing. So it's a gray area, and the moment there is regulation, we will apply for all the licenses, right? See, right now all we can do is apply for an FX brokerage license, right? That's all we can do, and that's what we are in the process of doing. Right, it's an investment dealer license, and we're speaking to the FCA and some other jurisdictions, but that's all we can do. The other option is to have nothing, which is fine as well, because it's a gray area, right? But the regulation needs to catch up, and that's when we can move. We can only move as fast as regulation. Right. I see a question from Line of Ward. I have been kicked out of many brokers, such as StockPair, because I usually win. Okay, that's interesting. Will SPECTRE target users who are winning and kick them out from system? Absolutely not. Absolutely. I mean, that's the most important thing. First of all, we can't target users, right? Because the smart contracts, they have a contract between the user's wallet, which is on the grid, which is blockchain, with the liquidity pool, right? So that we have no intention of doing that. That just won't happen, right? That's the whole problem in the industry, is that brokers, when you start to win, they throw you out. So absolutely no. I don't have my forecast here, but if you all head over to spectre.ai, you will click on the white paper and go on the forecast. There's a dynamic model, and you can read there the forecast for year one, you can see that we're actually forecasting 21 million in dividends to be paid out, right? Or sorry, was it 19 million? It was one of the two. I don't have the model in front of me, but you can go through the model yourself. We have every intention to pay out a lot of money to traders, right? For the traders that deserve it, the ones that have won, that have deserved the win, they will get paid. It's as simple as that. So your question from Cynthia Mantle, how will dividends be paid? Okay, sorry, how often will dividends be paid? Ideally, at the end of the day, ideally trade by trade, but we need to see, we don't want to put an unnecessary burden on the Ethereum blockchain, so we need to basically find a decent balance. I mean, probably end of day, end of week, something like that, but very often. They will basically accumulate, and then the SPEC token holder can log in and just withdraw, if that's the right term, if one can even call it that. And they can see what's available to them. They can just keep withdrawing. That's how it will be done. This compares to dividends being paid annually with equities. I see a question from Derpless. So the funds for liquidity pool come purely from ICO investors. How would you? Okay, I think this one I've already answered. Michael Hodges, Stavros gets I think it got cut off. See a question from Marios Paxinos. Robert Eck is asking, how are the brokerages reacting to this? Will they try to follow your path? Great question. Robert, so here's the thing. We haven't informed any brokerage. We have received an investment from someone who runs probably one of the best and safest brokerages, who loves the technology, who believes that this is the future of digital options trading and even FX when the time is right. But there is no, it's not like we're going to go to spot options and say, hey guys, what do you think? This is happening 100%, and we invite all the other brokerages or those technology providers to come and do exactly what we're doing and do it better than us. And if they can do it better than us, then basically they have solved the problem, right? You see, if spot option is happy in taking 2% instead of 100% on losses, fine. Go ahead and do that, because anyone who can implement this model, a technology platform, is going to be solving the problem. And that's good for traders, right? That's a good thing for the industry. I see a question from Maria Lisanhoven. Are the trading instruments only those cryptocurrencies, no indices, commodities? No, Maria. Sorry, that's not right. So the actual instruments, the actual assets you trade on, is all your usual currency pairs. We'll have a few metals at first as well, and eventually indices, stocks, and a range of others. Okay. So no, it's not just cryptocurrencies. In fact, from the cryptos, I think we'll just have Bitcoin at first, and Ethereum, and then over time we'll expand. But it's anything event-driven. I see a question from, so the funds for the liquidity pool come purely, okay, this question keeps coming up. I think there's an error here. William, USA traders on the platform to trade. Again, it's something we need to confirm, okay? Trading, if they're accredited investors, traders, it should be okay, but not for the investment in the token. But I will confirm that. Okay, I see a question from Michael Hodges. Will there be a pyramid of early investors, payout scale versus newer investors? This would be wise to get early investors. So I think what you're referring to is the pre-sale. The pre-sale is a standard issue, Michael, in the ICO. So there will be a pre-sale, yes. And typically those investors have a discount upon entry. Okay, I see a question. So here's from Derp Lith. So the funds for the liquidity pool, again, this question keeps repeating itself. I don't know why that is. Okay. I see a question from Leighton. Will the trade size be capped as well for added protection? Yes, Leighton, the trade size will be capped. And again, you can set these caps inside the SPECTRE platform for yourself. Okay, I see a question from Peter Baxter. Hi, I've just joined your webinar. I thought I'd get a reminder. Are you posting this on YouTube? Yes, Peter, this will be posted on YouTube. See a question from William Brent. Yes, there is a recording for this, William. No worries. I see a question from John Astrom. Great question. How is the pricing of the BOs determined a Spectre determined algo? If so, wouldn't the SH Signal Hive users have an advantage as Spectre owns Signal Hive? No, 2 points on this, John, and thanks for asking that question. Firstly, the pricing is the average bid ask price coming from Oanda. That's something you can verify. You can go on their website, just pull up their API, you can see it. So when you compare that, you'll see there's no scamming there. As for the ownership, again, that's not right. So this is, they're members of the team that are on Spectre, but the big portion of Signal Hive, firstly, it's a different entity. It's on a different company. Spectre is not part of Blue Sky Binary or anything like that. So there won't be any of that. No, okay, Derp, I'm glad you asked this. The dividends for the token holders come after the capitalization of the ICO, right? So once the investment is done, then the platform launches for trading. And then when traders trade on the platform, if a trader loses a trade, then the liquidity pool increases by the amount of that trade, right? And then the dividend holders are paid out 5% on that increase. Or if the traders are matched, a losing versus winning trader, then the liquidity pool takes a small cut and pays the dividend holder. That's how the dividends are paid on the actual trading. I see a question from Richard Ansadio. Will the FX, betting, and other dApps share the same liquidity pool? Fantastic question. The other dApps, like betting, possibly insurance apps, casino apps, all that stuff will share the same liquidity pool, but with this conditional liquidity algorithm that we've developed. So we can actually, it's pretty unique technology. It's actually pretty exciting to talk about. How Nadex has to match traders, like there has to be a Euro US dollar person going long versus a Euro US dollar person going short, and they have to match. We can actually match cross assets, right? Cross expiries, that doesn't matter anymore. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, it will be across dApps. For the FX side of things, that's a bit of a different animal because there you have already a very large liquidity pool in the multi-billions, literally every hour, every minute. So once again, when the banks are ready to start settling spot contracts on FX spot contracts on the blockchain, then that is when we will connect directly into that pool, if that makes sense. We would not need to provide this liquidity pool for that because there's already a much bigger one that exists. Good question from Stefan Peters. Can I still trade on binary.com with Artemis? Yes. That's the good news. So Artemis will exist as a separate product. You can use that to connect to binary.com, ETX, Markets World, all of those brokers, and you can continue to deplete them. Okay, so I see a question from Michael Hodges. You guys are, sorry guys, this is just going off my screen. You guys are looking to create a fair battleground to help end the absolute tyranny and the scam marketers brokers have caused. As a trader, I salute you and your vision, and I will support it in the leverage tune. I don't think most abused, tired scam traders who rightly so are going to take time to adjust to saving of binary options, which is what you're looking to accomplish. I salute you in this monolithic effort for how well done. I will absolutely clean up in such an environment. Cool. That's good. That's a good vote of confidence. Look, ultimately, yeah, I think that's well put, right? I think that's well phrased. So we're creating a fair battleground, and the market is a zero-sum game. I think there was a comment yesterday on binaryoptions.net. Someone said, "Oh, well, you're not getting rid of the underlying problem, which is a zero-sum game. You're just creating a fair." Well, it's trading is a zero-sum game. We can't make it that everyone wins and Spectre wins, right? Not everyone can win. All this is doing is it's creating a very fair trading environment, and I think that's the key thing. And yeah, look, you can trade at scam brokerages. You can risk depositing at brokers. You can trade at all the brokerages. But we feel that I think anyone who has a sane mind on their shoulders, who understands risk, etc., it's almost a no-brainer to trade at Artemis, to trade at Spectre. All right, I see, getting a bit of feedback here. The audio is breaking up. Can you all confirm that you can hear me? Is the audio still breaking up? Okay. See, Kay, your audio is breaking up. A lot of feedback. Mic issue. Your voice broke up. Here's your question from Armando Escobar. Okay, it says audio clear now. Okay. Are we going to be able to input trades from smartphones and tablets? Yes, Armando, absolutely. William Brent, is this call recorded? Yes, it is. Okay, audio clear. William Brent is saying, how do we get information about the ICO? William, we're going to hold a separate webinar about the ICO. Don't worry about that. This is just letting you know that this new technology is coming. We thought it would be important. By the way, we were not going to have this webinar at all until January of next year, until November, sorry. The reason we brought forward this webinar is because we met SciSec. We met SciSec, and that scared us because they do not know what they are doing. They don't understand options to a significant degree, right? So all the white papers and all the stuff they're putting out, the regulation is just not working. And what is happening is it's giving the digital options industry a really, really bad name, and also to a certain degree for the FX industry, right? Basically, what you need is you need a fair battleground. I think that's the right term to put it for the entire trading world, right? And regulators are too slow. Regulators are not traders, so they don't understand solutions. When we showed them this, they were literally shocked and agape. They were like, what's this, right? I mean, no one had actually thought outside the box. So the important thing is that we brought forward this webinar. We said, look, this is happening, right? So there is no demise of binary options trading or anything. It's just going to change. It's going to change dramatically. I see a question from William Brent. To invest in the coin pre-launch, how do I do this? Don't worry, William. We're gonna get back with that later. Don't worry about all of that information. Will be coming soon. All right. I see Mario's shouting, saying, "Thank you, guys. I've been scammed several times on different brokers." Yes, Marius, we understand your plight. This will stop in the future. Okay. Thank you, guys, for the feedback on the audio. Thank you, Maria. Okay. Good. John Walker saying, where can I go for some background on this, please, Josh? Yeah, John, you can head over to the website. A few points to note is that Josh and crew, they're not working on this. So this is a pretty important thing. There is our head of research and development, Otto, and Nikitas, and we have two other people who are blockchain engineers, and Zio and myself are kind of heading this up. And we're actually recruiting a team. We're going to be expanding very significantly post ICO with a substantial budget. So we look forward to getting kind of early evangelists of this technology on board. So get in touch with us, John, if that's what you meant. Very interested to start a discussion. Yeah, I mean, Michael, talking about SciSec incompetence, and Cynthia, yeah, I mean, look, don't get us started. With respect to the Dimitra, the lady, the main the head of SciSec, she definitely means well. It's just that she was, just totally up in arms. She had had enough. The problem is that the people that sit with them to formulate policy to regulate binary options are brokers themselves. There's a massive conflict of interest, and I'm just scratching the tip of the surface. Some of the things we found out, it kind of doesn't make sense. The point is now, in the future is the blockchain, right? And that's just there's no doubt about the future is the blockchain. Whether it is going to be this particular version of the Ethereum blockchain or a 2.0, because there's always scalability issues. Some of you must have heard about the UASF at the BTC blockchain, where it's been forked off. There's a new version of Bitcoin out there. All of these things are opportunities to improve the blockchain processing speed. And I think what we're going to see in the next 1 or 2 years, don't get me wrong, there's probably going to be knockoffs of SPECTRE, right? Once people see this, they'll probably want to do it. And the way we see it is do it. And maybe someday our liquidity pools can even talk. We have a protocol ready for that as well, right? So we just hope that regulators catch up quickly. It would be a shame to see regulators kind of still saying, oh, well, this isn't regulated, Yeah, this is probably one of the most important inventions in the history of trading. I hate to sound so um, hyperbolic about it, but it's true. And regulators need to catch up, because ultimately what you want to do is you want to be able to trade with the market without the presence of a middleman and without the ability or without the need to deposit, right? You take those two things out and you have a very fair trading environment. Okay, Lionel Ward is saying current brokers delay trades during news and when there's high volatility. Will you be doing the same? Will you be closing down Spectre during a specific time period? For example, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., something like that? No, as I mentioned earlier, Lionel, that's exactly the reason we developed Spectre. If it weren't for binary.com playing the games last year, right, because Signal Hive was the only social trading service in the world at that point that was raking it in for clients. And a legitimate regulated broker actually said, no, this can't continue. We're shutting down these key hours, right? So fine. And that basically sent a total a lack of confidence vote across the entire community in trading. And that forced us to innovate. And in answer to your question, no, of course, we won't be shutting that down. Yes, will there be some adjustments to the trade caps during the trade size in that period so that traders can't take a wanton kind of attitude towards that MOC effect or whatever? Possibly, but will we be banning or reducing payouts to 50%? Will we be stopping trades going through? Will we be? No, absolutely not. I mean, the way we see it is the following. From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., traders get screwed every day across the world, right? Millions are being lost. From 9 p.m. to 12 a.m., they should enjoy at least one hot meal, right? And so, yeah, there's no intention to shut the platform down. Again, but what I do want to reiterate is this is a baby, right? Spectre. And it's going to grow over time. And as it grows, its balance sheet grows, so will its trade limits, the type of trades you can take. We have an option creator, an option builder in there as well, which we're working on. All of this will expand. What we don't want you to do is come to the platform day one and say, oh, say, why is this not here, right? Or why is it? Again, please understand, we're doing this for the greater good, for the wider community. And we expect you to trade on this platform because it offers you everything you have wanted, right? It gets rid of all the crap. But of course, please note that it will launch as a beta, right? It's not going to launch as a final product. It'll always launch as a beta and will always continue to improve. See a question from Les Adams. Will the platform be accessed through VPS? Great question. No, Les. This is actually just a web browser. You will access it through Chrome. And again, it depends on our funding situation post ICO, but we may also create a desktop client, which is Mac OS based and also Windows based, but web based for sure. You don't need a VPS. Also note that I don't know why, but pending orders don't exist in digital options today, right? The concept of pending orders just seems alien. So Spectre will have pending orders. Artemis already has pending orders, and I think that will make life a lot easier. Okay. I see a question from William Brent. What's the website? Spectre.ai. That's the website. Important point. Please note that during the ICO process, there's going to be a lot of people setting up fake websites called Spectre. The only website to receive any instructions and communication about our ICO, the product, the system is spectre.ai. It is not any other website. Okay. So anyway, we're going to be putting out a community message, but just take that on board. Phew, okay. That was quite a list of questions. I think we're finally through them all. It's a question from Les Adams. The weakest link for clients is their internet provider. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I would recommend a high-speed internet connection for sure, Les. You can use a VPS, by the way, to access it. I don't think that should be any problem. Thank you, William. And for the developers out there, I know I have a question here from one developer saying, will we provide a sandbox? Will you provide a sandbox for the dApp store? what is the underlying language. We'll definitely let you know all of those details shortly. So we're not going to be creating our own coding language. The smart contracts are going to be engineered in Solidity, which is, I think, one of the most popular Ethereum writing languages, coding languages. So you can use Solidity to create the smart contracts. The adapt that you create and how it interacts with the smart contracts, that will be audited by us as well, just to make sure that the smart contracts are robust before it's launched on the actual SPECTRE protocol. And what's important to note is that, of course, we have a compensation plan for dApp developers. It's a very healthy one. It's a 3% per trade, right? So, and we've stress tested that model, and it looks pretty good. So there's definitely an incentive to develop your own social trading communities, to develop your own trading platforms. You don't have to only access it through Artemis, Spectre, or Hive, or others. We have a company which is developing a dice game, Ethereum-based dice game, which will link to the Spectre protocol, and I think that would be pretty interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I think Michael's asking a question that some of the others asked already. What are your views on integration options with that for Spectre for auto trading? Yeah, absolutely. So Signal Hive has an embedded semi-automatic and automatic trader. When Spectre has stabilized, I would say Q2, Q3 of next year, when we see everything is kind of working fine, we will be integrating Signal Hive, just like it was integrated before with binary.com. And we will allow auto trading as well. Always note that there are trade caps. That's something we will always keep to limit. We don't want, moronic trade sizes going through, both primarily to help to not kill the trader's balance, but also to ensure the long-term survival of the liquidity pool. But it's important that profitable apps will be allowed on the system, right? We want traders to also make money. And I think that's something that's not allowed in the community today. If people can engineer profitable algorithms, or if, let's say, if there's a trader that can trade well and he has a following, 30, 40, 50 traders, where he wants to become a signal provider, as long as that service is regulated, that's fair game on Spectre. Okay, I see a question here from Novacek. When is Artemis live? Good question. Artemis goes live. It's already live in a private alpha. It goes live in its official beta, I think, in end of next week or the shortly the week after that. And that it will connect to 3 regulated brokers. And moment the smart contracts are audited and it's repurposed to the blockchain, then Spectre by Artemis launches. We are looking at probably October for that. So amidst the ICO, basically, everyone will be able to access it and also trade on it on testnet. Okay, for those of you that don't know what testnet is, it's basically the sandbox or staging environment for Ethereum projects, and mainnet is the actual blockchain. All right, this is the last call for questions, everyone. Do you have an affiliate program? This is coming from Maria. We don't have an affiliate program for the system at the moment. Of course, when it launches, there will be a dApp store where you can build your own apps. If there's going to be an affiliate program, most probably it will be compensated through using the SPEC token. Okay, so that's basically the best route. Okay, look, there's a question from Michael Hodges. Is the bounty the AF? No, Mike, close. Basically, in this presentation, the bounty that we're referring to basically is, let's say you don't want to invest in SPEC for whatever reason, but you have a community or people that believe that want to invest in the SPEC ICO. This is only for the ICO, by the way. Then we have a program in place where we'll be compensating you in SPEC tokens for people that you bring to invest in the ICO. That's something, again, that we'll be having a proper webinar on. The affiliate program I think Maria was referring to is the actual platform itself once it's live to bring users to the platform. There will be one, of course, and most likely will be compensated using tokens since that technology now exists. And it won't be based on paying affiliates on user losses. I mean, that's an important thing to note, right? And we have an interesting thing to say about that. Okay, that's it then. Look, thank you for your time, and we will see you all very shortly on the other side. Take care.